Brace yourselves, the Learning Blocks program is coming. Kia ora tātou, my name is Jaden Houghton and I'm one of the lecturers in Law 301 Land Law this year. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick orientation to the Learning Blocks program. I'll see you over on the Canvas course.
So here we are on Canvas. If we scroll down, we get to the Learning Blocks program. Now, you'll be aware from having been a law student for a few years that most of the full year law courses have 8 tutorial rounds, and this is the same for land law. If we scroll down this page, we will see mention of 8 tutorials. So here's tutorial 1, tutorial 2, tutorial 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and tutorial 8. So one way of reading this page is to see what is going to be covered in each of the tutorial rounds. It is a little bit more complicated than that, though, because some of the tutorials are nestled in what we call learning blocks. Indeed, 5 of the 8 tutorials are nestled in what we call learning blocks. So if we look at learning block A, we see that tutorial 2 is nestled in learning block A. We see that tutorial 3 is nestled in learning block B. We see that tutorial 4 is nestled in learning block C. Tutorial 6 is nestled in learning block D. And tutorial 7 is nestled in learning block E. Now, what is a learning block? Well, these are all examples of learning blocks. Let's have a look at learning block A as a case study. You'll see, first of all, that the learning block is color-coded forest green, as opposed to the sort of grey that characterizes the other 3. Okay, so the 5 learning blocks are color-coded forest green, as opposed to the grey that characterizes the other 3 rounds. Probably a more obvious way to tell that this is a learning block is that there are 4 components to the block. First, a pre-tutorial activity, then a tutorial, followed by a post-tutorial quiz, and then a notes and exemplars page opens up. So each learning block has 4 components. You'll see that each of these learning blocks has the same 4 components: activity, tutorial, post-tutorial quiz, and notes and exemplars page, as opposed to something like this, which is just a tutorial on its own. Okay, so this is a learning block because it has an activity, tutorial, post-tutorial, quiz, and notes and exemplars page, and same here. So this is how this page is to be read. You begin at the top. Your first tutorial round is explained here. Then you move on to learning block A. You'll be required to do a pre-tutorial activity, attend a tutorial, do a post-tutorial quiz, and then you get access to the notes and exemplars. And then at that point you move on to learning block B. You complete the pre-tutorial activity, you attend the tutorial, you do the post-tutorial quiz, and then you get access to the notes and exemplars. Then you work through learning block C. Then at the start of semester 2, there's just a tutorial on its own. There's no tutorial, pre-tutorial activity or post-tutorial quiz. But then you get to learning block D, and there is a pre-tutorial activity, a tutorial, a post-tutorial quiz, and a notes and exemplars page. And same for learning block E. We finish with a tutorial on its own, which focuses on exam skills, with leases as a case study. Okay, so hopefully you now understand how this page works. Do note that there's sometimes some overlap between the learning blocks. So you might, for instance, complete activity A and attend tutorial 2, but then you got to bear in mind that the activity for the next learning block might be coming up soon, and sometimes the quiz for one learning block will be very close to the due date for the activity in the learning block following. Okay, so just make sure as you're working through a learning block that you look ahead to the next one to make sure that you will be able to meet the deadline for the activity following your quiz. Okay, so for example, we see here this quiz is open Monday 11 April and closes Thursday 14 April at 12 noon. Okay, this one's not so bad. The activity opens a little bit before the quiz closes, but you get a fair amount of time until May to complete that activity. But if we look at this one, we see that quiz B closes on Thursday 19 May, and we see that this activity is due around the same time. Okay, so that could be a crunch time, and that really is just because of the way that the law school's tutorial rounds are scheduled. We try to make it fit as neatly as we can, but there are a couple pressure points in the schedule that we just cannot avoid. Okay, so just watch out for the due dates. You could theoretically here complete the quiz for this learning block, say in the afternoon of Monday 16 May, and then you could then move on to the activity that night if you were particular about doing things in that order. Okay, but it shouldn't matter so much. It doesn't matter if you start working on, say, activity C before you've completed quiz B, as long as you complete all of the components by their respective deadlines. So you should have a sense now that each learning block follows the same structure. You'll see here there's a list of relevant lectures for that learning block, and in a moment we'll click into the activity and quiz, but each of those will tell you what lectures you need to be familiar with to complete that assessment. So if we look at activity A, for example, it tells you that in order to complete this activity you need to be familiar with lectures 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And if we look at the instructions for quiz A, we'll see here again that the testable material is lectures 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, and that includes the material in the lectures, including the cases and provisions referred to in those lectures. Now the activities are usually open for a good fortnight, and it might open around about the time that the first lecture in the learning block takes place. You really should have a look at that activity, perhaps make a start on it, but don't submit until you've taken all of the lectures that are testable in that activity. And it might mean that you, say, start it sort of early in that date range, but you only submit it towards the end of the date range. Okay, so make sure you have watched and engaged with each of those lectures before you do submit the activity. Okay, so just to reiterate, it is quite helpful, I think, to download the activity problem early on and get a sense of the problem so that when you are watching these lectures, you have a fact pattern in mind that you can reflect on as your lecturer is talking about the content. And you might think, oh, that's relevant to the activity problem, or oh, it looks like that might be an issue here. I'll explore that a little bit further in my problem. Okay, but you don't actually want to submit your activity until closer to the deadline once you have watched and engaged with each of those lectures. So let's have a look at an example. I'll click on Activity A. This is what Activity A looks like. You're told what material you need to revise before you complete the activity. You can then download the activity problem, and this activity problem is the same problem that will be discussed in your tutorial. So if you complete the activity, then you would have done all the preparation you need to then attend the tutorial. So this learning block A is on title, interests and priorities, and you probably can't tell yet because you haven't taken these lectures, but the material is very much focused on title, interests and priorities from lectures 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So once you have revised the relevant lectures, you download the problem. You should try to understand what the problem is about. Might be helpful if you make a little plan. Think about what the issues are before you attempt the activity. Once you understand what's going on, you understand the problem, you then click a button which will appear down here for you. For me it's preview, but for you it should say something like take the survey. And this will open the activity for you. I'll click preview to show you what the activity will look like. Okay, you'll see here that you are guided through a response to the problem question. So at first you need to note down the material facts. Here you need to select some things from a drop-down menu. Sometimes you'll need to note the issue, complete sentences to show you understand the relevant law, some true or falses. Here there's a relevant case. You're asked to state the material facts in that case and answer some questions about it. And now that you understand the material facts and the issue and the relevant law, you then apply the relevant law to the facts, and then you reach a conclusion. Okay, so it's a very guided approach to responding to the problem question. Once you're finished, you submit your activity. It actually says submit quiz because that's the terminology that Canvas uses, but it is an activity. You submit the activity. You'll probably note that there is a timer that's ticking along. Don't worry about that. You can take as long as you need with the activity. And you should be able to enter and exit the activity and chip away at it over a few different sessions. But what I would suggest you do is just type in something, just random, say $100,000, and then exit the activity, and then come back into the activity and just check that the activity has retained the information you entered. Okay, so I'd just do that just to check before you rely on the technology, because sometimes the technology does go wrong. Okay, make sure you don't press submit until you have completed all the questions, because once you submit, you cannot come back to amend your activity. Okay, so I just suggest entering a little bit of information, exiting out, and entering again into the activity just to check that the activity does retain the information you have provided. Okay, because we don't want you to almost complete it, exit out, and then see that everything has cleared. Okay, so once you've revised the lectures, you download the problem, you engage with the problem, you understand the problem, you perhaps write a short plan to understand the issues. You then click Take Survey. That will take you to the activity, and the activity is designed to step you through the legal method process that you would work through if you were to answer this problem. this first activity is already opened. I've opened it early in case you want to go in there and have a little snoop around. But again, please do not submit your activity until much closer to the deadline, because you want to watch those relevant lectures first. Once you click submit, as I say, you cannot edit your responses any further. The page will lock to you. The next point's really important. Once the deadline passes, what we do is we go through and give everybody 0 marks. Okay, so we give everybody a 0, and this is because Canvas won't let us unlock the activity until it has been marked. So we give everyone a 0, and that means that you can see your answers again. You can take your answers to the tutorial. Okay, so don't be stunned if right after the deadline passes you receive a 0. Okay, we do send an announcement just to remind you so you don't freak out. But you will receive a 0, and then you have to wait, say, a week or so before we mark your activity. And then another announcement will be posted that says, okay, your marks for the activity are now finalized, and that's when you will hopefully see that you have received 1 mark. But of course, if you didn't complete the activity, then you might still have a 0. Okay, but don't be stunned if you see that you get a 0 sort of the day after the deadline. That's just so Canvas unlocks your activity so that you can see the questions and the answers, so you can take those answers along to your tutorial. On Canvas, you'll get access to this document. It's a course information document. On page 6, you'll see this table that tells you how the activities are marked. Okay, so the activities are worth 1%. Okay, each is worth 1%. And the activities are marked on a good and honest attempt basis. Okay, so if you make a satisfactory attempt, a good and honest attempt at the activity, you will receive 1 mark. So if you make a good and honest attempt, you've attempted every question, you've given it a go, then you'll receive 1 mark. That, of course, is at the discretion of the teaching staff. But if there are questions, if there are answers missing, or you've written gibberish for some of them, or you rushed it like a few minutes before the deadline, which does happen sometimes, and we can see how long each student has worked on the activity and when it was submitted, then you are at risk of getting 0 mark for the activity. Here you'll see on page 6 of the course information document, there's a summary of the learning blocks. Okay, so you'll see for each learning block, the activity is worth 1%. You then attend your tutorial, so you take your activity answers and you attend the tutorial, which will explore the activity in more detail and will clarify the answers to the activity questions. After the tutorial, you then do a post-tutorial quiz, and each quiz is worth 2%. Okay, so that's how we make up 3% per learning block. There are 5 learning blocks in the course. 3 times 5 is 15%. So overall, the Learning Blocks program contributes 15% to your overall grade in this course. Okay, so you complete the pre-tutorial activity. You submit. If you made a good and honest attempt and you answered every question, then you'll receive your 1%. You go to the tutorial. The tutorial is on the same problem. We do not give you feedback on your activity answers. You need to go to the tutorial to get feedback on your activity answers. So you go to the tutorial, which is on the same problem as the activity, and your tutor will talk about the problem and talk about the answers, and you will then be able to, through the tutorial discussion, work out what the correct answer was to each of those questions. You'll be able to check what the material facts were. Did you get the issue right? Did you cite the right cases for the relevant law? You can evaluate your application against the application that other students wrote. And you can check, did you come to the same conclusion? It doesn't matter that you came to a different conclusion. Okay, that's what the tutorial is all about. It's about clarifying and checking the answers that you gave for your activity response. Time permitting, it's also an opportunity to look at some more subtle issues in the problem, okay? Because not all issues in the problem will be walked through in the pre-tutorial activity. Okay? So there may be some subtler issues, some policy questions and so forth that you might like to explore, or your tutor might like to explore with you. Okay, so that's the function of the tutorial. Okay, it is to help you check your answers to the activity, and it is for you to think about the nuances of the problem. Once the tutorial round ends, the post-tutorial quiz will open up. Okay, and the post-tutorial quiz will usually be on the same material, so the same lectures, will often be related, at least some of the questions will be related to the material that was tested in your activity and in your tutorial. Okay, so attendance at the tutorial and completion of the activity are certainly useful for preparing for the post-tutorial quiz. You see here there's a practice question, and then if you highlight, you'll get to see what the correct answer was. Okay. To begin your quiz, you go down and there'll be a button that says Start Quiz or Take Quiz, Take Survey. Again, that's just Canvas's standard terminology. For me, it just says Preview, and I'm not going to show you the quiz right now because that would be foolish, wouldn't it? But the important point to note here is that while you have a 3-day window in which to complete your quiz, once you click Start, you have a 20-minute time limit before the quiz automatically shuts. Okay, so you get to choose your when in that 3-day window you take the quiz, but once you start it, you can't then exit out. Okay, you need to complete that quiz within 20 minutes of starting it, and you only have one attempt at the quiz. Okay, another point to note is that not every student gets the same quiz questions. So there is a bank of many quiz questions, all assessed by the lecturers as being of a similar difficulty level, and you will receive 8 questions. 8 questions to complete in 20 minutes. That means you get 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 30 to complete each question. Okay, so 2 minutes 30 times 8 equals 20 minutes. The 8 questions you get will be different to the 8 questions that, say, any other student in the course will get. Okay, and this is just to ensure the integrity of the assessment, and so that students can be assured that there's no collusion and so forth. Okay, so make sure you prepare for the quiz on your own and you take your own quiz. Otherwise, there will be academic integrity issues, and we have had to deal with those in the past. Okay, Canvas is quite a smart system that shows a lot of information in the back end of it. Okay, so we usually monitor that quite closely. So please just prepare to take your own quiz and take your quiz. Okay, again, you have a 3-day window, but you get to choose when in that 3-day window you want to start your 20 minutes. Okay, you only have 20 minutes. If you start your 20 minutes, then exit out, the timer is still running. Okay, so you have 20 minutes from when you press start. We strongly advise that you find somewhere with a good internet connection. If you're able to, and this will depend on the alert level settings, but if you're able to be on campus and work on a university computer, we strongly recommend you do so. That gives the added benefit that if there is some university-wide internet issue, then that will be logged, and we should be able to provide some discretion for you. But if you complete the quiz on an internet connection outside the university and your internet fails, then we unfortunately cannot permit you to take the quiz again. Okay, so you really have to make sure that you have a stable internet connection before you attempt the quiz. Okay, so you've completed the pre-tutorial activity, you've attended the tutorial, you've completed the post-tutorial quiz. You will then be able to access the Notes and Exemplars page. And for each of these learning blocks, there is a Notes and Exemplars page. What's in the Notes and Exemplars pages? Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look at this one. This is on mortgages. You'll see here that there are practice quizzes that you can take. And then there are problems that you can answer. Now, it's a common complaint at law school that lecturers tell you to go away and try practice problems. But lecturers aren't available to go through everybody's practice problem and to tell you what you did well and what you didn't do so well and how you can improve and what grade you would have got. The Notes and Exemplars pages are designed to address this issue and to fill the gap. So here what you can do, this is problem A. In this problem, you are asked to advise a prospective purchaser of land which is to be sold by mortgagee sale. In circumstances where your client's building plans may be frustrated by a covenant and a large pile of soil, and your client already has a commercial relationship with the mortgagee. Done, done, done. Well, what you do, you download the problem. Okay, it is a past exam problem. You then plan an answer to the problem. Okay, so you revise the relevant lectures first. This is how you get the most out of it. Revise the relevant lectures first, get your notes in order, print out the problem or have it up on your screen, and take 10 minutes to plan an answer to it. You don't have to write a full exam answer to it, just plan an answer. Take 10 minutes. Then you come along here, and then you can watch me plan an answer to the problem myself. Make sure you put the quality up the highest, 720p. If we scroll along, you'll see it's me and I'm talking. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking right now, am I? There we are. Okay, so I'm talking through how I would plan an answer to this problem.
Part of the land that I know are going to be probably quite relevant to Jansen and Mansour might be one, Harnden and Collins could be another.
Okay, then you can watch the subsequent video, Ingredients of an Answer, and this is where I go through in a lot of detail and I unpack all of the aspects of the problem. Okay, so I'm not just writing a plan before your very eyes, but I'm talking about all of the different issues and what happened in the cases and why this is an issue, but why we don't talk about this. Okay, so talk a little bit about exam technique. Okay, So these videos together really do give you that feedback that you would be seeking from the lecturer. Okay, so you download the problem, you revise the relevant lectures, you time yourself, you make a plan, you then watch my video on planning an answer to the problem, and then you watch the ingredients of an answer video. In some cases, so here's problem B, this involves a fraudster and a mortgage. You could do the same. You then watch the planning the answer video, watch the ingredients of the answer video, and then here you have exemplars. So this was a real exam problem from 2 or 3 years ago, 2019 exam. You can go through, you can click exam scripts, make sure you have the quality up the highest, 720p, and these are real students' answers to the question in past exams. Okay, so this is a student's answer. Okay, they're on video. We don't provide the PDFs for them, but as long as you have the quality up the highest, then it's the same quality that you'd get in a PDF. Okay, and if you need to read it, you just pause, take your time, you read, then you move on. Okay, this is a student's answer that received an A for this question. Okay, so you can see my video showing you how to plan an answer. You can see my ingredients of an answer video, explaining the subtleties and the issues that are going on in the cases that are relevant. And then you can go and you can have a look at these exemplars on the problem to see how students actually performed in the exam. Okay, so these are all A's, but you'll note that there were also B scripts, C scripts, and D scripts. Okay, so students that got between 65 and 79, students that got between 50 and 65, and then students that failed the question. Okay, so if you find that helpful, you could then try to work out, well, what differentiates an A from a B? What differentiates a B from a C? Okay, they're still quite broad categories, so we don't tell you what got an A minus and what got an A plus, or what got a B plus and what got a B minus. Okay, there's still 15% ranges in each of those videos. But I'm hoping that the combination of us modeling answers to the problem, exploring the issues in more detail in a discussion form, and then for some of these problems providing exemplars will help you to develop your exam technique, to level the playing field, so to speak, so that students who are not yet comfortable with writing answers in a law exam have the resources to develop those skills, to refine those skills, to practice those skills. Because it really does take practice for you to move from, say, getting the B answer, semester after semester, or the B plus answer. A lot of students get caught in a particular grade, and they question, how can they improve? Well, this is how. Okay, we've given you as much as we possibly can here. Okay, so we want you to practice these problems. We want you to check your answers. We want you to have a look at how other students answered the questions. Okay, we want you to do that over and over again so that you can develop those skills. Okay, so that students that are determined to do better in their law exams can do so. Okay, if you're sick of getting stuck in a particular grade and you don't know how to improve, take advantage of these notes and exemplars pages. We've put a huge amount of time into them. They are there for the students who are determined to do better. Okay, I know it's part 3 of your degree. You're a bit far along, but it's better now than never. Please take advantage of it. Students every year talk about how incredibly useful these resources were in preparing for their land law and other law exams. I'm big on transparency. I don't think there should be any secrets about how to succeed at law school. Okay, we're putting it all out there. any student that wants to do well should have an opportunity to do well in this course. Okay, I'm going to head back to the home page and I'll finish off the video there. So, that's the Learning Blocks program. We're very proud of it. Last time students evaluated the course on SET, we received very high evaluations, well above the university average. So I ask you to please have faith in the way that this course is designed. It might be a little bit more complicated than you're used to begin with, especially when you get into the learning blocks for the first time. But once you've completed your first learning block, it becomes like second nature. Okay, you complete the pre-tutorial activity, you go to the tutorial, you do the quiz, and you look out for the activity in the next block, just in case that's coming up around the corner or is due at a very similar time. Okay, but generally you work through the block, then you work through the next one, then you work through the next one. Then we've got the inter-semester break, then you start off with like a reintroduction tutorial, a couple more blocks, by that time you're an old hand at it, and then a final exam skills tutorial. It's really not that complicated, and you'll be in the swing of things before you know it. If you have any teething problems, then we will open Piazza. Piazza will be open until the evening of Monday the 25th of July. That's about a day before the essay is due. Okay, so you have Piazza for at least half the course until late July. Piazza then closes off, but by that time you should be very familiar and comfortable with the learning modules, and your essay would have already been submitted. Okay. Thanks so much for listening to this video and sticking with it. The teaching team, that's Catherine, myself and David, plus potentially one other lecturer later in the year, really look forward to talking about land law with you this year. Do also note on the homepage that we have the details for your tutors, okay, including the rooms if we are back in person. Otherwise, you probably know the drill by now. There will be live Zoom sessions at the same time that your in-person tutorial session would have been held. Okay, so go on SSO, have a look at what class stream you're in. So let's say you're tutorial 7, that's a Wednesday, 8 AM. It'll either be in person at this location, or it will be a live Zoom and you will be sent the link to that tutorial session. And that session is with Anya. Okay, it should all be very straightforward. Any questions? Hop on Piazza. Okay, take care. Look forward to seeing you soon.